Let us continue with the program and move on to the Rail Systems business presentation. The presenter is Alistair Dormer, Hitachi Rail Global CEO of Hitachi Limited and Executive Chairman and CEO of Hitachi Rail Europe. Alistair, the floor is yours.
And I'm sorry, that's the end of my Japanese. So I'm very excited to be here today, and thank you very much for coming to listen to me. Now we're going to talk about the railway, and we're going to talk about three things that we have as a big challenge. We have a very good company, we had very good products, we had good systems, and we have good people. But we need to transform our business to become a global business. And that's a big challenge, because to be a global company, what we need to do is we need to increase our presence in the market, we need to increase our global supply chain, and we need to increase our international talent. So, a little bit about me and what is a global CEO. Well, I'm really honored to be leading this company. I joined Hitachi back in 2003. At that time, I had quite a lot of hair. But I led the entry into the UK market for the Class 395 contract, which is a fantastic contract in the UK, and is a very famous contract because these trains were used for the London 2012 Olympic Games. So everybody knows this product. Because of the success of that product, we were able to win the Intercity Express program. So I led the team that won that contract against intense European competition. And from April the 1st, I was appointed the global CEO. And importantly, we moved our headquarters to London, which was a strategic move. Now, why did we do that? Well, the Japanese market is a very, very important market to us, and our Japanese customers are extremely important to us. The Japanese market is relatively stable and relatively flat in terms of growth. So in order to really accelerate our business and to really grow our business, we need to be in the international field. So therefore, it was logical to move our management team into the marketplace where we can make decisions quickly and we can really work closely with our key customers. So I want to accelerate the growth of our business and really put the energy into that global expansion to make our business more successful and bigger. So a little bit about our business. We have a wide variety of products and services, all developed in partnership with our Japanese customers. So our technology is extremely good, our quality is extremely good, and I think Japanese railways and Japanese technology is really admired throughout the world. But what we've been doing over the last few years is developing that technology to become international. So our trains in Europe are manufactured and designed to European standard. We have now developed our signaling equipment to European standards. So we now have not just the products, but we also have the certification to be able to compete in a global market, whether that market applies European standards or whether that market applies Japanese standards. We have the technology to do that. Let's have a look at the market. The railway market is a very exciting place to be. There are many global trends or mega trends that are supporting the growth of the railways throughout the world. We have an environmental challenge. Railways are extremely environmentally friendly. We're seeing population growth, we're seeing urbanization, and we're seeing the growth of megacities, particularly in the developing world. And in order for those economies to really unlock their potential and to grow, they need mass transit railway systems. And we've also seen, through the leadership in Japan originally and then in Europe, the growth of high speed. And we continue to see, after a little bit of a lull, but we're seeing increased growth again in China in terms of mass transit and in terms of high speed. So for me, railways is the right place to be. Where we're working at the moment in the UK, we see constant expansion of passenger numbers. Passenger numbers have increased by 50% in the last 10 years alone. So we're seeing increased investment. We've seen massive investment in China. We see that coming again. And in Asia, we see a strong market in the future for mass transit systems on a turnkey basis. What I mean by that is customers looking for a complete railway system. So the track, the signaling, the rolling stock, the control systems, the maintenance. With our wide portfolio, we're well placed to take advantage of that market. So where are we today? Well, I'd just like to take you through 2 or 3 of our major contracts. Firstly, the Intercity Express program. This contract was signed in 2012, the first phase, and we signed the second phase of the contract in April. Design has gone exceptionally well. We've completed the interior design in the UK, and we've had more than 2,000 people through that design to give us their comment and finalize exactly what the interior will look like. The first prototype train is in manufacture in Casado at this moment in time, and that will be complete towards the end of this year. And we will ship that train over to the UK as the first prototype unit to begin testing in the spring of next year. It's not just trains. Sorry, could we just go back one? It's not just trains, though. We are building a maintenance capability. So we have a 27.5-year contract to maintain these trains. So we have a very long, very stable income stream from this contract. So the construction of the depots is going extremely well. The first depot to the west of London will be complete in November, so 6 months ahead of the arrival of the first train. So we'll be able to test our processes, test our maintenance regime before the train comes over into the UK for testing. Then we have a long test period to make sure there are absolutely no issues with the trains before we move into the mass production phase. I mentioned earlier emerging markets and the requirement for the turnkey type solution. Well, Ho Chi Minh is a great example of that. So Hitachi is a prime contractor, so we're supplying the rolling stock, the signaling, and the control systems, including power and depot facilities. And then for the first 5 years, we'll be working with our customer in Ho Chi Minh to develop the maintenance solution. This is an excellent contract for us because it really sets us up in this fast emerging market. But we have some challenges for sure. What we need to do is we need to leverage the supply chain to make sure we can drive lower cost solutions for the future. And we also need to make sure we've got exceptionally strong project management to bring all of this together and deliver. I'm completely confident we can do that. And I'm also confident that on the back of this project, we can leverage more contracts in emerging markets. Another key technology is monorail. Monorail is extremely popular in the developing world. Why? Because monorail is relatively simple construction of the infrastructure. It's relatively low cost in terms of infrastructure, and the amount of land you need to take for the construction of the monorail is relatively small. So I see a big market out there for the monorail solution. But again, we've got challenges with that in that we need to continue to develop our technology. So we are working very hard to reduce the weight of the vehicles and to become more and more energy efficient, because the lighter the vehicle, the less cost there is for the infrastructure, and therefore the lower the whole life cycle cost of the system. But our contract in Daegu is going very well. We've completed delivery of all of the trains, and we will move into the testing process pretty soon. So where are we? Well, thanks to our contracts, our significant contracts in the United Kingdom, we've seen a significant step up in our revenue. But the market's competitive, and we're seeing changes now in Europe in terms of further anticipated consolidation in the market. So we are watching that situation very carefully. But change is good, because when there is a change, it creates opportunity. So we need to take our business in the right direction. So we are aiming towards becoming a total solution provider, and we're on a growth trajectory. So for me, that's the right place for us to go. So in 2014, we'll see quite a step up in our order forecast. Some of this is thanks to us successfully signing the Intercity Express program in April. However, we have a challenge in 2015, and part of my job is to make sure we put the right people in place around the global network so that we can leverage the great story that we have here in terms of our technology and our capability. We've proven we can deliver in international markets, in the UK, in Korea, in China. We're doing it now in Vietnam. So we need to expand that into other new markets. So the work has started now in terms of identifying those resources and those bases that we need to build upon. As I mentioned before, we have a total coverage of the value chain for the customer, all the way from the component business in traction and signaling, all the way through to our maintenance business. We've achieved a lot in the last couple of years. As I mentioned before, for our signaling business, we've achieved certification in Europe to supply that signaling system. And I'm delighted to be able to tell you that we've won our first order in the UK for this system. It's a very small order, but it's significant, because what that means is the European customer is completely satisfied with Hitachi's technology, and there is a big market for onboard signaling solutions in the future as railways try to become more efficient by operating trains closer together whilst maintaining safety. In the UK, the picture here is our brand new rolling stock factory in the northeast of England. The construction is going extremely well. Our builder is managing the program exceptionally well, and we expect to see the factory opened the middle of next year. On Monday, I had a meeting with the British Prime Minister. He said to me, could you please accelerate before the general election this opening? But unfortunately, we will keep to our schedule. But we have a big challenge there because we have a lot of people to hire. We have an extensive training program to take our people through, and we have people that we've already hired currently working in our factory in Japan, learning how to build our trains, how to keep the quality, and to transfer those skills and technology over to the UK. And as I mentioned before, we have a big challenge in growing our maintenance team. Fortunately for the Intercity Express program, we will bring a lot of people over from the current operator. So our challenge is really to bring those people into the Hitachi family so that they understand our values of quality and customer service. So, I said we're going for growth. We've put together a new global organization, which I'll come on to shortly. We're very established in Japan, the UK, and China, but we need to grow. We do need to shape and expand our business. As we grow, we need to look at different processes to make sure that we maintain our quality. So we have teams now looking at our designs, looking at our production methodology, looking at our global supply chain to make sure we've got the processes and we've got the skills necessary for this transformation. So we're working on that now because we anticipate requiring these processes next year. And we need to expand our product portfolio. And again, I'll come on to that very shortly. April the 1st, we revised our organization. So we have Japan-China region, which is managed by Masai-san. We have international business development, which is managed by Shinya Mitsudomi, based in London, and his team of sales team. And we have Hitachi Rail Europe, which is managed by a UK guy. But what's important is we brought that team together so that we can work much closely together. We can reduce overall overhead costs, particularly as we go through a rapid expansion in the UK. Because in 2015, for the first time, our international revenues will exceed our revenues that we get in Japan. So this is really the trend of where our business is going globally. We're in a very fortunate position because as a rail company, we're part of the Hitachi Group. So Hitachi has many, many sales offices all around the world. So it enables us to understand what's going on in that local market, have business intelligence from that client base and from that market. We're very well established in the UK, and not just the UK, we also have offices in Germany, and we're expanding our network there of people. In China, we have our manufacturing base, and very recently we've just opened a joint venture company for signaling components to capture further business in China. Japan is really our technology hub. So this is where our design is. This is where we have our bedrock of products and services, but we are expanding our capability through hiring designers in the UK so that we can increase our design capacity. We've been in India now for quite a while, and India is a very important market. It's a huge railway in India, and we see significant investment coming in that market, particularly following the recent general election. So we're anticipating a growing market in India, but we've already been there for over 12 months. Southeast Asia, we're in Vietnam, as I mentioned before, and South America, we've opened an office to anticipate further business in Brazil and the Latin American market. We have world-class technology. I truly believe that because we compete on a world level and we are successful. What's important is that we develop a family of trains which is standardized and modularized, which is easy to customize to meet particular customer requirements, but it is built in such a way that we have the right building blocks in place so that we can leverage the global supply chain, and we can also ensure we minimize production costs. So we are developing the global A-train. We will launch this product, the AT100 and AT200 in London next month in front of the media, customers. We'll have around about 400 or 500 people to that event to launch that project. And we're actively bidding for contracts for these projects at the moment. We have the AT300, which is based on our Intercity Express program, and again, we see future demand for that product. Signaling, I've mentioned before, we've developed our European compatible signaling systems. We're also working very hard to get certification for CBTC, which is the mass transit version of in-cab signaling. And we've been working very hard to develop next-generation inverters. We have a technology. We're now going through a productionization process so that we can bring those products to market. And our service business is expanding rapidly. So we're working on 7 different depots in the UK. And significantly, this will increase our revenue portion from the service business to 25%. Different customers have different requirements. Different markets have different requirements. So we see in the UK, we're very active in the consumer commuter market. We're very active in onboard signaling, and also traffic management is becoming an increasingly important aspect. And this is really computer control of the railway itself to increase efficiency of the railway system. In China, we're really concentrating on our component business and signaling. Southeast Asia, we see turnkey. India, traction, also potentially a huge monorail market. And we see monorail as well being a very attractive proposition in Latin America. We're in a global competition. We have to continue to work hard. Customers demand shorter lead times. They demand lower costs, not just the initial acquisition cost, but also life cycle costs. So we're working very hard to reduce our cost. We're working with our supply chain to leverage our buying power, and we're reducing our indirect costs. So we have a lot of work to do, but we have a clear plan of how we will effect these improvements. And that flows through in terms of what we deliver. So we're reducing our SG&A costs and increasing our margin. So finally, we have a growing business. We're on track to deliver. We've set ourselves targets in 2015, and I'm extremely confident that we'll meet those targets. As I mentioned before, we have the 3 big challenges. We have a very good business, we have very good products, we have very good people. We need to globalize our business. We're set on that journey now. But in order to realize that, we need to increase our international resources, increase our international talent, and really leverage our business to be successful. I'm really excited about the challenge of taking that on. It's a great company to be in, and I'm looking forward to making it happen. Thank you very much.
それでは引き続き質疑応答。
We would now like to move on to Q&A session. Hitachi Rail Global COO of Hitachi and President CEO of Railway Systems Company, Mr. Masai Kentaro. Hitachi Rail Global CSO of Hitachi and CSO Rail Systems Company, Mr. Shinya Mitsudomi. And Global CFO of Hitachi Limited, Hitachi Rail, and CFO Rail Systems Company, Mr. Keisuke Yabuta. They will also respond to your questions. Any questions, please? Second from the front, please. Question. I have a question on the domestic market. The bullet train Shinkansen business of Hitachi Limited, JR Higashi East, 500K and 800K. There are bullet trains where you were proactively involved in the design. However, for the past few years, to E6 and E7 of JR and Kyushu free gauge train that is being on trial, these are Kawasaki Heavy Industry. They have been proactively involved in the design, KHI. So there is a difference, gap now, because you have been focusing on the overseas. That is why you are less focused on the domestic side. That is my impression. In maybe a decade or two, the domestic bullet train will move to the next model, next generation. And so, are you thinking of, again, becoming actively involved in the designing?
We are completely focused on the domestic market as well as growing our international business. I've seen generations of Shinkansen trains go through our factory in Kasado, N700, E5, E6, and now E7. So we are fully committed to our Japanese customers. We're fully committed to keeping our technology right at the forefront and challenging the other domestic players.
Let me add some comments. Currently, Shinkansen bullet train E5 and E6, we are involved in E5 and E6 design. We have roles and divisions, roles and responsibilities. And so for the rolling stocks that were mentioned, the front is, yes, you're right, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, but we have our role to play. We are involved. And therefore, regarding this high-speed technology, we will continue working hard. So I ask you for your support.
Any other questions? I see a hand in the front. Please go ahead. Question. I have several questions to ask. Page 11 of the slide pack. Hitachi's operating margin is expected to grow from 20 to 40% or so. Is this an error, or is there an explanation behind this? So operating margin of close to 40%? Is this correct?
The operating margin, it is the improvement in our operating margin. So it's the improvement in our revenues.
Understood. So the vertical axis is revenue, growth rate, and horizontal axis is the actual growth rate in the past 2 years. And operating margin growth is shown here. Is that correct? Improvement in operating margin, that's what's reflected here? Well, vertical axis is the growth rate of revenue, and horizontal axis is operating margin ratio. So operating margin for fiscal year 2013, a little less than 5%. In 2016, close to 10%. Then how much growth is revenue going to have? Well, as you can see from the horizontal axis, in fiscal year 2013, around 20%. In 2016, or 15 or 16, 30% or so growth. Understood. Thank you. There's another. Well, actually, there are two more questions. So a long maintenance period of 27.5 years, that's what you have won. It's an extended period of time in the contract that you have signed. How is British inflation reflected in the contract? Is inflation risk borne by Hitachi, or is the provision going to allow you to make adjustments in terms of inflation going forward? And repair and maintenance. Well, Japanese and Asian train systems, compared to the practice in Asia, if there's more repair and maintenance to be required in the UK, you may not be as profitable. So how is the contract dealing with that issue? If there's a lot of repair and maintenance required more so than initially expected, how are you going to deal with that?
To answer the first part of your question, the contract has a series of rebasing positions. So there is inflation is included in the contract, but there are periodic rebasing positions in the contract. So we don't take 27.5 years worth of inflation risk. Regarding the maintenance cost, we invested in extremely sophisticated software modeling to model our 27.5 years maintenance cost and revenue. That modeling was subject to due diligence by all of the funders, lenders, technical advisors. So we are extremely confident that we will manage our maintenance costs within budget. Not only that, though, but we've also invested quite heavily in our onboard IT system. So in the past, the train was periodically inspected by human beings. However, the regulations in the UK allow us to be quite flexible in terms of our maintenance regime. So what we're doing for the IEP trains is we're installing an IT system that will be monitoring all of our key systems on the train. So, for example, the speed of opening and closing the door. So we will be able to reduce our ongoing inspection regime to become more of a on-condition-based maintenance regime.
Okay, thank you. Last question, if I may.
There's one more question that I would like to ask, if I may. Away from the business, non-Japanese person being the global CEO, that's who you are. So let me ask you a question. Hitachi's management is globalized. That is the awareness that we have here in Japan. But do you agree? Do you think that Hitachi's management is globalized now that you are part of it? I shouldn't be asking too rude a question, but among the management team members, well, ever since you joined the management team, what are the positive changes that you have witnessed that have led to better management team? What are the positive changes that you have witnessed? And what are the areas that are unbearable to you? I'm sure there are areas that have not changed since you joined. And what are the ones that are unbearable?
Wow. Well, over the last 12 years, I've seen massive change in Hitachi as a company. I think those of you who've heard our president or met our president, Mr. Nakanishi, will know that he's incredibly aggressive to grow Hitachi as a company, and he is driving the company to globalize. Now, Hitachi is a supertanker, so to change the direction of a supertanker takes a little bit of time. I'm in a very lucky position because I worked for the company for 12 years, but I know the management team exceptionally well, both at the corporate level, but also within the rail systems company. So it's kind of easy to work in an environment where you know people very well. Of course, there's lots we need to do. So I'm very keen to drive further international capability in the company, to really leverage our global talent, to bring new ideas, fresh ideas into the company. So there is a lot, there's a lot for me to do. And I think the rail company can really be a leader for Hitachi as a group to show the way of how we can really be successful in the global market. We've already demonstrated we can do it in the UK. The next challenge is to really create another UK, and then another one, then another one, then another one. It's a great job to have, so I'm glad I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much.
すみません、ちょっと帝国を過ぎてしまいましたが、最後に
Time has passed, but we would like to take one last question. So, person in the front. I have two questions, if I may. Is it okay? Question. My first question is, it has not closed yet, but I would like to ask you for your view, Mr. Dormer. Alstom. GE and Siemens are now competing. From railway business point of view, how are you seeing this? If I could hear your view, Mr. Dormer. And the other question is, you touched on India earlier. Japanese do not know much about India. So, and the global head is in London, and maybe the British person is better at negotiating with the Indians. And as you just mentioned, the new administration started in India. So rather than having the head in Tokyo, maybe it's more advantageous to have the head in UK. So what is your view on that, please? About India, yes.
Okay, so the first question first. I don't actually know what's going to happen in Europe. It's an interesting situation, and we're watching it extremely carefully. But I actually see it as a positive, because when there's movement in the market, it creates opportunities. So I think all I can say at this moment in time is we're looking at it, and we need to make sure that we are prepared to take advantage of any opportunities that may throw up. With regard to India, I think the best person to negotiate with Indian people is Indian people. So one thing I think is very important is that we really need to internationalize our team. So we will be hiring a senior person in our India office to head up that team, who will work very, very closely with myself and Mitsunomi-san. I think this is the right way to grow in any market. You need to have local knowledge, local custom, real great local understanding of how the market works. So that is our strategy for improving our team and improving our prospects in the Indian market.
Thank you very much. But London, I think, has more advantage than Tokyo. What do you think?
I think that the great advantage of having our team spread between Tokyo and London is that we not only do we have the very strong support of the Japanese government, we also have very strong support from the UK government. So, for example, even last week we had an event in Northern Europe, and we had an event where we were meeting customers, and we had attendance at that event from the representative of the Japanese ambassador to that country and also from the UK ambassador. So for me, it's great that we can leverage two great nations with fantastic international networks and use whichever one is going to be successful in the right market.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
じゃあそれではこれをもちまして、鉄道システム事業
Thank you very much. That concludes the session with the rail business. Thank you.